Good evening, everyone. My name's Ruth Darlene. I'm founder and executive director of Women of Silicon Valley, WomenSV. This is a nonprofit in Silicon Valley that serves women from all over who are dealing with more subtle forms of abuse, emotional, financial, technological, legal, in addition to physical and sexual violence. So our ladies are typically doctors, lawyers, engineers themselves. Many have become stay-at-home moms. Their partners are doctors, lawyers, engineers, CEOs. So they are people in prestigious positions with influence and power out in society, and yet have a very different dark side behind closed doors that usually only his wife and children ever see. So if you think you've come to the right place to hear more about the covert abuser, the Dark Tetrad, coercive control, what it feels like to be living a life of apparent privilege and yet struggling to put food on the table, or being dragged back to court again and again and fighting for custody of your children and feeling like you're so depleted in every area of your life. If this description fits you, well, welcome, my friends, and I will do whatever I can to support you. If you had a chance to look at my last video, this was all about the covert abuser and the Dark Tetrad. So take a look at that if you like. It's called Unmasking Dr. Jekyll. And if you want to learn more and hear about when new videos come out, please click the subscribe button. Today, we are going to be talking about the attack defense wheel. Now, this is something that I've developed over the last 10 years and working with over 1,000 women in middle to upper income areas who are dealing with a powerful, sophisticated abuser. Somebody who has this great reputation, often out in the world, and yet his wife, you, and your children possibly are the only ones that see this other side. Many of our ladies, when they're reaching out to us, feel depleted, exhausted, almost like they have crossed the ocean and many mountains and portaged across many a river to get here. And there's a reason why you may be feeling so depleted. And this has to do with all the different areas you may have come under attack. After dealing with or working with, serving 1,000 women in the past 10 years, I put together something called the Attack Defense Wheel. So I want to first of all go through all the different areas that you might have come under attack, and then we'll talk about ways to address each one of these areas. So the first is the most obvious: physical and sexual violence. I mentioned the professions that many of our ladies come from, the demographic that our ladies tend to come from, middle to upper income areas, the type of abuser they tend to be involved with, somebody who is educated and sophisticated and has a certain positions of standing in the community. Now that doesn't mean they don't have this other potential to use not only their words, but physical violence to control and threaten and punish their partner. About a rough estimate is about 35 to 40% of the 1,000 women that I've served have experienced non-fatal strangulation at the hands of their intimate partner, their doctor, lawyer, engineer, CEO partner. He has put his hands on her neck, raised his hand and said, "I am holding your life in my hands and I get to decide whether you live or die." Even if this happens in the bedroom and is part of the act of so-called lovemaking, it's anything but. Even in a court of law now, it's been decided that you cannot willingly consent to a life-threatening act, not even strangulation in the course of intimacy with an intimate partner. So no longer does that defense of, oh, she just likes rough sex, fly anymore. But perhaps you've not experienced strangulation, non-fatal strangulation at the hands of your partner yet. Do you know that emotional abuse has a potential at any time to turn physical? But there are other types of physical abuse that you may have been subjected to and maybe not even be aware of it. Do you know that punching the wall, not you, but the wall, is a form of physical domestic violence? What message is he sending? When he punches that wall, he's saying, first the wall, next you, if you don't toe the line. Does he wake you up in the middle of the night, come in and rant and rave about something that some coworker or subordinate said to him that made him angry? And if you don't listen attentively at 2 a.m., even though you have to get up and work the next day, does he call you selfish and that you're not there to support him? Or does he come in and find something to complain about or punish you about, threaten you about in the middle of the night, pound the bed and keep you awake for hours while you have to get up the next morning? That's a form of domestic violence. Why? You can drive somebody crazy through lack of sleep. People can die through sleep deprivation. That is a form of domestic violence. Does he ever destroy any of your personal property? Does he take your laptop when he's angry and fling it against the wall? Does he take your personal property away or throw it out? Here's another way of putting a big X through your identity, your personhood, your freedom, who you are as a person. That is a form of domestic violence, destroying your personal property. Does he drive recklessly to scare you, to threaten you, to punish you? If you're out on the highway at night and you've said something that makes him angry, and he puts his foot on the pedal, and you ask him to take it off, what does he do in response? Does he just drive faster? That's another form of domestic violence. Does he push you, poke you, slap you, pinch you? Abuse. Physical abuse is a slippery slope, and you'll see all the different areas that I'm going to cover in this video today. Please click subscribe if you want to stay tuned to hear more and in more detail as we go forward. But every one of these areas that I'm talking about begins as a one-off, something that gives you this little strange feeling in your gut, like, oh, did he really mean to say that? Did he really mean to do that? In the bedroom, he put his hands on my throat. Next time he put his hands on my throat and squeezed a little bit. Next time he left his hand there a little too long and I started to get frightened. It's this slow, creeping, insidious, slow motion escalation from one form of control or coercion or power over you to another that's more insidious and becomes more obvious over time. Each one of these acts, let's pretend that you are an astronomer out in the night sky, looking at a star in the night sky. You see one star, it's just one star. But then if you see another and another and another, and if they form a certain pattern, then the constellation emerges. And that's why we want to look for patterns of behavior when it comes to coercive control. It's the pattern that will emerge over time that will help you identify what you're up against. And thank God, if you live in California now, there is a law about it in family court, Family Code 6320, that talks about coercive control, that pattern of isolating, threatening, controlling behavior that seeks to rob you of your identity, your freedom, your personhood over time. But it's slow and steady, and you can blink and you miss it in the early days. Is he texting you 50 times a day when you're first going out to check in, see how you're doing, telling you he loves you, just thinking about you? Isn't that sweet? And doesn't that look like love in the beginning? But over time, doesn't it start to look more like stalking if you're paying attention? He wants to know what you're doing, who you're talking to, and who you're with if you're not with him. Till over time, you may have to account for every moment that you're not with him. Starting to feel like a prisoner in your own home, and not just in your own home, but perhaps at work as well. We have one lady who had to FaceTime on her way from home to the car, on her way from the car to work, during her lunch, and then on the way home to prove that she wasn't having an affair with another man. Be careful about this. When he starts to express concern and jealousy and suspicion about what you're doing in your free time, because often these guys, and I say guys because coercive control is typically a gender-based crime perpetrated by men against women. Not always, but most often. But be careful about these one-offs over time and accusing you of often the very thing he himself is doing. They will often accuse you of what they are doing. That's where we get the expression DARVO, deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So accuse you of the very thing that he himself is doing. He may accuse you of being physically violent towards him. Watch out if he is ramping you up trying to get a reaction out of you. He knows all the right buttons to press, doesn't he? Because you've been perhaps married for many years, and he knows what sets you off. And if he's going poke, poke, poke in this low voice, but sort of this slow, steady drip of poison getting into your veins and attacking your ability to parent, or ability to hold your job, or to go after that promotion, or who you are as a woman, or your ability to perform in the bedroom, who knows all the different things that may come under attack. But if he finally gets a reaction out of you, watch out for that, because he may be surreptitiously recording it in a way that will come back to haunt you. We have ladies whose husbands have provoked them until the point they get a response, and when she loses her temper or reaches out to touch him to get his attention, let's say he is scolding her, berating her, but he's looking off in the distance in this very strange, bizarre way, not looking her in the eye. And she asks him again and again, please look at me as we're talking. And he refuses and he refuses. And she reaches out and touches his arm or touches his cheeks to get him to turn towards her. And you know what he says then? That's offensive touching, picks up the phone, calls 911, tells the police that he's afraid of you because you've attacked him. And there may be even a scratch mark there, not perhaps from your fingernails inadvertently, perhaps from his own. Because from the outside, he may very much look like the poor beleaguered husband who's just trying to come to terms with his wife who has mental health issues. And before you know it, you could end up in jail or on a 5150 psychiatric hold. You could end up with a restraining order against you. You could end up losing custody of your children. That's how cunning these guys are. They are consummate chess players, consummate salesmen. They could live in the Antarctica, the Arctic or Antarctica. They could sell you a refrigerator and convince you it's Hawaii and you're on a tropical beach, and you'll believe them because they're that convincing. That's how good these guys are. They can make black white and white black. They can paint a big X through your character, and because other people are just seeing the tip of the iceberg, there's a risk of believing his lies over your truth. One of our ladies said, he lies so much better than I tell the truth. So thinking about physical and sexual attacks on your body, on your personhood, is he blocking your entrance, preventing you from leaving a room, doggedly pursuing you from one room to another, stalking you? Is he doing things you don't want him to do in the bedroom? Are you having to give in, to surrender, to go along, to get along, because that's the price of peace in your home? You know that if you don't succumb, that your children will pay the price, or you will pay the price the next day. That's assault. That's sexual assault. Consent is ongoing, enthusiastic approval. And that can be withdrawn at any moment. So physical and sexual violence are more common than we'd like to think in this demographic, where we think that everybody's learned to use their words. If you're educated, use your words. They know how to use their words to attack you, don't they? Emotionally, to get inside your head, to manipulate you, to use these psychological tricks to make you question your memory, your perception of reality. So emotional abuse, very, very common. That psychological manipulation, gaslighting. In the beginning, what's the type of, how do they use their wiles and their charm to pull you in? You've heard perhaps the term love bombing, where they're everywhere at once. They are showering you with love and attention and gifts and perhaps over time exotic vacations. What's not to love? What's not to like? If he checks all the right boxes, that he's a doctor, he drives a Mercedes, he lives in a very nice part of town, he's extremely well spoken, he's got a great sense of humor. Check, check, check. Wouldn't Mama be proud? But what are we thinking about really in terms of a mate, in terms of a partner? These are the external trappings of success that I talked about in my previous video. You can click the subscribe button and you'll hear more about that, or look at Unmasking Dr. Jekyll to hear more about how we get pulled in by the surface charm, the trappings of success that these guys display. Over time, that love bombing, that putting you up on the pedestal. Oh, you're the smartest woman I've ever met. You're so much smarter and it's than any other woman I've gone out with. And what a refreshing relief you are to my crazy ex-wife. Over time, that sort of that putting you on the pedestal, that elevating you almost to the position of goddess. Watch out for that. If you feel like he has found the perfect mate in you, none of us is perfect. But these guys tend to move from one extreme to the other. First, they elevate you, put you up on that pedestal. But, it's a long way down. The higher up you are, the further there is to fall. And watch out for when you do reveal your imperfections or when he starts to feel like he's gaining more control over you. Sometimes the first time we see that is when you get married, even on the night of the honeymoon. Sometimes that other self comes out, or on the honeymoon, when he feels like he's gaining power over you, or if you've given up your job, or if you've had a child and stop work to stay home and raise the child, if you've moved away to support his career and sacrifice yours for his. As you give freely of your love and your power, he takes freely more and more of who you are. And without giving in return. So the psychological and emotional abuse that you may see emerge over time can be very difficult to put your finger on because it doesn't leave physical wounds to show for it. It's invisible, and it can feel like grasping at fog. When I'm with him, like I used to feel so good when we went out together. He used to really shower me with all kinds of praise, and I really felt like I was the most special person in the world. And now there's something different about our interactions. I feel somehow like I can't do anything right. We went to a restaurant and it was closed, and he said something like, "Oh well, you could afford to miss a few meals anyway." And when I took offense at that or was hurt by that comment, he said, "What, can't you take a joke? Why, now I feel like I got to walk on eggshells around you. Why are you so oversensitive?" Or maybe even deny that he even said it in the first place if you've been thinking about it for a while and bring it out later. And then he may launch into this 5-minute monologue that is designed to make you forget what the original comment was all about. And so before you know it, your head is spinning. These guys are very adept at taking truth and spinning it to suit their purposes, and then weaving truth in with the lies to make the lies more credible. They are professionals at this. So we talked about physical and sexual abuse, psychological, emotional abuse. What about financial abuse? Have you been subjected to that at all? There's another form of attack that many of our ladies come under. So sometimes he has racked up tremendous debt, even in her name. Or what if you help put your husband through medical school, and there's a debt that's been accumulated in the course of that, and all the debts that get accumulated in the course of your marriage, you get to share in, just as you do with the assets and the income. Since after you get married. So watch out for that, or being stuck with the house where you have to pay the mortgage, or has he put you on an allowance in the course of your relationship? Do you have to account for every penny you spend? Bring home the receipts, or you got to run out to the store to bring back the receipt if you forgot to bring it home? Does he give you a debit card and just put enough money on that for whatever the grocery bill comes to? Do you have access to the joint account, even if you have one? Sometimes some of our ladies don't even have a joint account. He's got his account, and he'll put some money in an account for you, or a joint account, but it's maybe a couple of $1,000 a month for you to buy the groceries with, and yet you have no access to any of the money that he's earning while you're staying at home to raise the children. And don't let him tell you that you're sitting on your fanny eating bonbons, watching Netflix while he's going to bring home the bacon. If you start to add up all the different duties that you fulfill, even as a stay-at-home mom, he'd end up owing you money. So big time for chauffeuring and volunteering. So California is a community property state, and that means whatever's earned after you get married, you both get to share in. And often these guys are laboring under the misconception that there is California law, and then there's their law, and their law should supersede California law. It's my money, I earned it while you sat home on your fanny. So don't let them give you that argument. I want to be careful about how I say that, though, because it's not like you're going to say, that's ridiculous. I know what California law is. Let me tell you the story of a woman that did do that. You've got to be very careful about confronting a covert abuser, because what you're doing is you're taking the mask off and you're showing them that you know who's beneath that mask, and they will punish you for that. So we had a lady who was tired of the affairs that her husband was having, tired of the abuse, and she one night confronted him and said, I want a divorce. I know California is a community property state, and I'm entitled to 50% of the community assets. And furthermore, I know that you've been hiding income. All these things she said were letting so many cats out of the bag. And you know what happened to her? She was up most of the night with him making threats. You can imagine what state she was in when he was chasing her around the house with a knife. And then when she finally called the police, he got there before she did. And she ended up in jail and lost custody of the children. So really what they're after is to destroy your credibility so that no one will listen to you, and they will get away with whatever lies they're telling. So with the financial abuse piece, so we had another lady who, she and her husband, this is during the days of wedded bliss, they bought a home together, they fixed it up, remodeled it, they sold it, made $500,000 in the sale of it, and they put it away in a joint account with the promise that they weren't going to touch that account until they found the house of their dreams later on, and then they would use that money to put a down payment on the home of their dreams. Years go by, she hasn't touched it. And then she finds the house of her dreams and takes a peek at that joint account. And you know how much money she finds in it that day? Zero. And it's not like there's any even receipt to show for it. A couple of Lamborghinis or any other kind of evidence of where that money went. Frittered away on sex workers and gambling and the racetrack. With nothing to show for it. Another lady ends up with, after her husband decides that he's had enough and is more interested in many other women than just being married, leaves her, and she ends up with 5 years of income tax returns sent to her in the mail for 5 years of unfiled income tax. She thought her husband was handling it. He was in the world of finance, and she was an art teacher. So it seemed like a natural division of labor. And of course, there was that assumption of trust, that fiduciary relationship that both parties are supposed to honor in a marital contract. It is a contract when you marry somebody, and there is a vow. And the vow is, I will be true to you, you will be true to me. I will honor my promise to you, you will honor your promise to me. And it's all well and good as long as both parties are participating in that contract. But when one party starts taking money out of the joint account, cash out, and then putting it in another account, pretending it's his, when they are stealing from the joint account, we call those things money laundering and embezzlement out in the business world. What do you call it when it happens in a marriage? That marital contract can come back to bite you. Once you find out that your husband, your partner, is not acting in your best interests, is not acting in good faith, has violated his vow, his of loyalty and fidelity and honesty, whether spoken or not. That's the contract that happens when you get married. So watch out for your own misplaced sense of loyalty now, thinking that you don't want to break up the family because you don't want your children coming from a broken home. Here's the news flash. The home is already broken, and you didn't break it. He broke it. He broke his vow. He broke the home. He broke your trust in him. And some of our ladies will say, oh, but he's such a good father. The kids love him. He's a good dad. I know he hasn't treated me well, but he's a good father. I can't accept that, because you can't be a good father unless you're also a good husband, because you're teaching a child how a man treats a woman, how a husband treats a wife, how a father treats a mother. It's a complete package. So thinking about the ways you come under attack, you want to think about the ways to defend yourself, and the first thing that goes out the window when you figure out that he's declared war on you is truth. Truth is the first casualty of war. It's already been a casualty because you will no doubt have discovered that he has been lying to you for years. You may have discovered he's been seeing other women, hiding money overseas. When you went out with him in the beginning, treated you so well, and now betrayed that image of himself by presenting another who puts you down, demeans you, and threatens you, and makes you feel like you are not the person you were when you first met. Those are all betrayals on so many different levels. We talked about physical and sexual abuse. We talked about psychological, emotional abuse. We talked about financial abuse. We talked about the abuse of law enforcement, where you get manipulated, provoked, or set up in a way that makes you look like you're the perpetrator, and you end up getting arrested or having a restraining order placed on you. So anything in the hands of an abuser can become a weapon, even the law, even the court process. So many of our ladies get dragged back to court again and again and again, and they get labeled the high conflict couple. Oh, here they are again. This is a high conflict divorce. And they may be scolded by the judge, who may say to them, why can't you two get along for the sake of your children? Why can't you just work it out? Why do I keep seeing you over and over again? And what the judge or the court may not understand is that she doesn't want to be there. She's getting pulled back again and again. Why? Because he's using his financial resources now to continue the abuse, to transfer it from home into the legal arena. He may not be able to get at you directly now, so now it's abuse by proxy, using the legal system, accusing you of all kinds of things, peppering you with paperwork, 1,000 different demands that you have to respond to, litigating every single aspect of your divorce, and crawling through any little loophole in the custody agreement. Watch out for the weaponization of the court system. And how about now your identity as a woman, your own sexuality? Have you felt sexy lately, ladies? I'm going to guess the answer is no. It's hard to feel sexy when you've been attacked on so many different levels, and perhaps even your femininity has come under attack. If he says to you things like, well, you used to be so hot, what happened to you? Or this, business about you could stand to miss a few meals. Or in the bedroom, I've had so many other women that were so much better than you are, or just commenting on your performance or your lack of performance, noticing that first little line or wrinkle, or the first little gray hair, or the few extra pounds, or just chipping away at your identity as a woman, or attacking your sexuality. So we had a lady who went to a wedding with her fiance, and they were on the dance floor, and she was madly in love with him because he was so charming. Every now and again he would say something, and she would it would trouble her, worry her, hurt her, but she would cast it aside because there were so many other wonderful things he was saying and doing. So they're on the dance floor, and she moves in a bit of a suggestive way for her fiance, and she's sort of giving him a taste of what she hopes is to come later in the evening, letting him know that she finds him attractive, and she hopes he finds her the same way. And he brings her in close, and instead of whispering in her ear, you're so hot and so sexy, it's like, who are you, some kind of whore? Stop embarrassing me or shaming me. That's not what I'm looking for in a woman. So she was completely shamed and humiliated and just horrified. I mean, this display was subtle, but just enough for him that she learned that she had to be. There was a certain way that she had to behave when she was around him, and it was the beginning of the end to her spontaneity, and that attack on her sexuality. Technological abuse. How many of you have suffered technological abuse at the hands of your partner? So wondering, are there hidden cameras in the smoke detectors? A hidden camera in the car? Has he hacked into your email account? Is he listening in on your phone? So one of our ladies was badly beaten by her husband, and later he hacked into her email account and sent himself emails as if from her apologizing for attacking him. Darvo, deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. There we go. So technological abuse, watch out for that. And it's getting more and more sophisticated nowadays with these deep fakes. And one wonders, will technological evidence even be allowed to be admissible in court if you can impersonate somebody's voice, electronically simulate it, or their physical appearance. All you have to do is look up Tom Cruise and deep fake online, and you'll see Tom Cruise showing you a magic trick, only it's not Tom Cruise. Has he gone after the people in your children's network? Has he been planting seeds of concern in the minds of your children's pediatrician, or their teacher, or their coach, anyone to do with any of their extracurricular activities? Is he showing signs of concern about your mental health? Is he playing the victim and starting to plant those seeds so he can harvest them later? So one of our ladies, her husband was a litigating attorney, and he said, you know how you destroy somebody's credibility? You start off with these little seeds, and you say, oh, well, Susie never really was crazy about being a mother, and I kind of talked her into it, but I'm seeing like more and more these signs that she's really not thrilled with our being at home with our children anymore. This is Susie, who's cooking and slaving and doing everything around the house, and gave up her career to raise the children. But he's saying he works all day and then comes home and he's got to make all the meals because she's just lying in bed drinking, and now he's worried that she's developing a drinking problem. And meanwhile, this is him who comes home and polishes off a bottle of bourbon every night. So planting these little seeds bit by bit so that if it does come, and then weaving some truth in. Yes, she did stay at home with the children. And perhaps he's concerned that she's, seeing a psychiatrist now and she's on all these prescriptions and taking all these pills. Well, maybe she's on a prescription for anxiety or depression or PTSD as a result of living with this daily abuse. So there may be some truth in what he says, but what he does is he sprinkles the truth in with the lies, all the better to make the lies more credible with. So then over time, if it gets to the point where he does file for divorce or she files for divorce, and then he scoops her and getting a restraining order against her to try to get custody of the children, then people in their his circle of influence, they start to, they nod their heads wisely and sadly and go, oh yeah, that's what he was talking about. And mind you, many of our ladies, they do not present well when they've been sleep deprived for months, in some cases years, when they've been terrorized, when they've been stalked, when their lives have been threatened, when they're about to lose their children, when the most unimaginable nightmares are happening to them in their daily life. Many of our ladies do not present well. Many of our ladies are not believed because they don't have broken bones or bruises to show for it. Meanwhile, he's got an MD or PhD, letters after his name. He's a pillar of the community. Who would you believe, the stay-at-home mom or this poor beleaguered husband who's trying to keep the family together and do what he can to save his children from the crazy, alcoholic, drug-addicted, abusive wife? Who would you believe? That's how convincing they are. So we talk in a subsequent video, so you could click subscribe and you'll hear me talk in a subsequent video about the games that covert abusers play. War, business, chess, magic, poker. I'll talk about them all in subsequent videos. So what made me think of that now is this sort of first to market wins approach. We want to think about the strategies that these guys use, and they do use strategies. They play chess. Even if they don't play chess, they play chess. Only it's not the little plastic pieces on a chessboard. It's people that become the pawns, and they are very good, very adept at thinking several moves ahead. So if you've never played chess, now is the time to start. Because what's going to happen to you as a trauma survivor is you'll be busy fighting the fires that he plants in front of you. You put out this fire, then that fire, then that fire. And what you don't see is the ambush or the huge bonfire he's planning for you down the road. So watch out for that. You want to be able to think several moves ahead just as he does. So think about that strategy. First to market wins. He tries to plant these seeds by getting to people first in your circle of influence so he can convince them that you are the problem. What can you do to counter that? Can you try as much as possible to be that first to market so you can get your story across to counter his lies even before he tells them? And you might even give them a heads up. Here's what he may say about me. Here's what he might try to do. This is what I've learned from all the books I've read and the talks I've heard and the classes I've gone to and the support group I belong to. Here's what I've learned about this type of abuser who's so hard to identify, but I'm so concerned. Can you please help me to protect my children going forward? Appealing to them for help, helping them understand what he might try to do so you can cut them off at the pass. So watch out for the pediatrician, the teacher, the coach, all of these people that he might get to attack you by proxy, by going to them, through them, to get to you. Cultural and immigration issues. Are you from another country? Are you on a visa? Is he going to threaten to get that visa suspended, or have you deported? Or if you've overstayed your visa, is he going to try to out you about that? Is he going to do something that's going to make you worry about your immigration status? Do you come from a different culture than he does? Is he starting to make fun of that culture? Is he forbidding you to speak your native language to your children in the home? And yet does he make fun of you for speaking English as a second language? Does he go out of his way to use big words that you haven't looked up and haven't come to in your vocab study yet, but as another way of mocking you, humiliating you, and undermining your relationship with your child? So it becomes the two of them. They understand the word, but you don't. Look for the subtle ways that they begin to attack your culture and the things that are important to you. Or if you're both from the same culture, is divorce a taboo in your culture, or domestic violence a taboo? We have ladies from all over the world, all different races and cultures and religions, and anything in the hands of an abuser can become a weapon, even your race, even your religion, even your culture, so that you don't want to break up the home because you're going to bring shame to the rest of the family. You're going to become a pariah in your circle of social circle of friends. So watch out for the threats that will come as a result of your culture. And how he may weaponize those in a way to control you and isolate you and prevent you from taking your freedom back. So important to start gathering your village around you, because what they're trying to do in this chess game is take off all your pieces of support around you, the better to isolate you and checkmate you. So the counter strategy to that is start building your village in all the different areas we're talking about. Spiritually, remember, anything in the hands of an abuser can become a weapon, even your religion. So are you a woman of faith? You know, if you've listened to my other videos, I'm a woman of faith. But even your faith can become a weapon in the wrong hands. So if he is a so-called believer, he may use the Bible as a way of justifying the fact that he's the head of the household and you must be submissive. And obey him in all things. Nowhere in the Bible does it ever say that you should submit to abuse. Does he not allow you to practice your religion? Does he not allow you to take the children to your place of worship? Does he make it hard for you to practice your faith or to teach that and share that with your children? There is a way that that spirituality gets turned into a weapon in the wrong hands. How about your career? Were you on track to complete your residency as a doctor? Were you a successful accountant, or working as a teacher, or an artist, or an attorney yourself? Did you have a thriving career? Did you give that up in order to stay home or help promote your husband's career? Where is that now? Where are your dreams? What happened to those dreams, and what happened to your financial self-sufficiency as a result? Financial reasons are one of the main reasons why women stay in an abusive relationship, and they're one of the main reasons why women go back to their abuser to have a roof over their head and over their children's head. Sometimes he will threaten to cut off the tuition of the children if they're in college or at a fancy private school, unless she does exactly what he tells her to. So your career can take a huge hit in the course of serving your husband and having your power taken away by him. How about your home? How about where you live? Is that coming under attack? In the home, while you're still married, is it a smart home? And this is a combination of your home and technology being weaponized. Does he crank the heat up when he's at his office when it's in the middle of summer and it's 100 degrees outside and now 150 inside the house? Does he wake you up with the stereo blaring in the middle of the night to torment you? But even the home afterwards, or during the marriage, has he tricked you into signing a quit claim deed so that you have no interest in the property anymore? Or has, after you separate and are going through the divorce process, do you get the house, but the big mortgage that goes along with it? If you stay behind in the house, is it really a safe place for you to continue to be? If you are with a covert abuser and leaving a covert abuser, covert abuse is a lethality risk. Coercive control is a lethality risk, right up there with gun ownership and ending the relationship. These guys are about treating you like an object, possibly a sex object in the bedroom, or a work object in the kitchen, or a Stepford wife to take care of the children and perform household duties. And treating you like a possession. What's the ultimate right of possession? Disposal. That's why coercive control is a lethality risk, because that's how they see women, and often children, as property. Your children are even at risk as well, because sometimes they will hurt the children, or worse, in order to hurt you. Anything in the hands of an abuser can become a weapon. Back to your home. If you stay at home, in the home that you were in with the children afterwards, is it safe? Is it still safe to stay there? Does he have hidden cameras in the ceiling vent or on the smoke detector? Have you changed the locks? There's lots of different things that you can do if you stay behind in that home, but it's still it's like your little fortress now, and that's a place of vulnerability, because he knows the ins and outs of the house, and how vengeful he will become if he feels like he's been ejected from the castle. Do you even have money if you leave your former residence? Do you have money for a new home? Are you couch surfing now, or staying with friends? One of our ladies was staying at Denny's overnight just to have a roof over her head. Another one of our ladies is floating from Airbnb to Airbnb. So another has just gone back into hiding. This is after being divorced for 9 years, because he has resurfaced. These guys have very long memories. They hold grudges. They hold grievances. And a grievance is the first step on the road to vengeance, holding a grievance against you. The last person they would ever hold accountable for their actions is themselves. They will blame you always. Always find someone else to blame, and usually you, rather than take any responsibility ever for any harm done. And their memory is long. So it's important to think about where you're going to live after you escape from an abusive relationship, so you can turn your home into the true sanctuary that you deserve. How about your friends, your extended family members, and your friends and other people in your social circle? Has he gone after them? Has he tried to co-opt them or recruit them? have they become, in quotes, flying monkeys? We have ladies, their own extended family members have been turned against them by their charming, persuasive con artist ex-husbands who are so good at playing the victim. Remember how effective he was at convincing you of how charming he was and how pure of motive and intent he was, and how this seemed to be your dream lover and dream mate, your soulmate in the beginning. That's that same kind of charm he's turning on now to convince others in your social circle and in court and everywhere else that he's the innocent one here and you are the problem. So is it any wonder, with all the different areas that we've talked about, that you feel tired and depleted and exhausted and perhaps all alone, like nobody understands because you don't have broken bones or bruises to show for it?